Factoring all along, now the directions are changing. We're going to solve each by factoring. All right, which means when we solve, we're going to actually come up with a number. And we're going to talk about why it's the way it is, but that will lead us into a future lesson. But we're going to create quadratic equations, which are the equations like you've had, and which is, like the x squared plus an x plus a number. And then we're going to factor, and then we're going to figure out how to create the number. Now, when you are graphing items, what is considered the point of origin? Zero. So all graphs are kind of based off of where they fall in line with the zero. Which axis is this?
X.
The x-axis. Which axis is the one going up and down?
Y.
The y-axis. All right. Normally, like these are all various alphabet letters for variables right now. What variable do we normally use with our quadratic equations?
Y.
X.
The x. The x. So what we're going to do is set, and one more question. When you move something across the equal mark, what happens to that number or variable? The sign changes. All of this is still what you're going to do. We're going to then create the quadratic equation, which is going to be your square, then your variable, then your number, and we're making equal to zero. Because zero is where all things begin with our graphing. We're going to eventually graph these. Okay? So, let us begin, and it's really kind of a cool thing, what we'll end up doing. So, you always want at this point your lead coefficient, which is the one with the square, to be positive. So it would be easier to just move the b squared over, but it would be negative, and then we'd have to be multiplying by -1 and all that. So we're going to move the negative 6b minus 5 over and change their signs. So we have b squared plus 6b plus 5. Oh, one more thing to say. In rearranging your different monomials, if you ended up with plus 5 plus 6b, rearrange it. Have it to where you have the square of in the variable, but have it in standard order, okay?
So the one with the squared has to be positive?
It has to be positive.
Okay.
And you know how we say the last number, what are the factors to get the last number, that when you add to get the middle number? If you don't have it in this right order, like if you were looking at 6 to get to 5, it would mess up. So you need to be sure you have it in the right order before you start working. All right, so we're here, and we're going to make it equal to 0 because we're trying to solve. And we're going to then factor. This one's pretty easy. 2 factors that equal 5, that when we add, we get to 6. What would those be?
B.
5 and 1.
5 and 1. But yes, B and B. But then are we adding or subtracting? Adding. I mean, this is so easy with positive numbers. Doesn't matter where we put the 5 or the 1 because the lead coefficient is 1. All right.
Wait a second. Oh, wait, never mind. I was looking at it wrong. I was looking at the negative 6b.
Now, yeah, discount. Now we're through with that up top. Don't even look back at it. Okay, it's gone. Now, what we're going to do, factors. How many factors do we have in this problem?
3.
2.
What about the 0?
No, it's not being multiplied. Only what's being multiplied. Let's back up to that question. What are factors, Maya?
The numbers that have been multiplied.
The numbers involved in a multiplication problem. And in this case, if we knew what B would be, we would just have 2 numbers. But anything in a parenthesis and right up next to a parenthesis, that means that they're being multiplied. So the B plus 1 is considered a factor, and the B plus 5 is considered its second factor. All right, if we had a greatest common factor that we removed and it's sitting out here, it would be considered a third factor because it is the greatest common factor.
Multiplied.
Right. So do you see how we would either have 2 or 3 factors here? All right, we're going to take each binomial, each parenthesis set, and have it equal to 0, and we're going to solve for the variable. Y'all been solving for the variable for years. So that part's going to be easy. So we're going to say b plus 1, which is our first parenthesis, equals 0. And then to isolate the b, we're going to subtract 1 from both sides. So b equals -1. Do you see how we did that?
And then, are we gonna have to do it with the 5?
And then you do it with the 5.
Okay.
So we're going to have b plus 5 equals 0. So what does b equal?
-5.
b equals -5. All right, let's talk about what this means. Now, this is not an ordered pair. So please, please, please do not give me your answer in parentheses. You can give it to me several different ways. You can say either b equals -1 comma -5, or you could do brackets and have -1, -5, or you could even say, I don't know, b equals -1, b equals -5. Just don't give it to me as a -1, -5 in parentheses, okay? But give me both answers. All right,
Can you explain it a little bit?
explain what?
How do you have 2 different B's?
Okay, that's where we're headed. All righty, we're going to be graphing this. I'll pay you later for asking the perfect question.
So, good job, Owen.
All right, so
No.
we are, everything in here, we can end up graphing.
Oh, look.
And we're going to graph our quadratics. We're not getting into it today, so I'm not going to have a big old lesson on graphing, but I'm going to explain this to you. Stay with me. When you graph a quadratic equation, you are creating, Luke, I've said your name.
He's laughing at me.
I was not laughing.
You looked at me.
Okay, stop it. Thank
Family
you.
Feud.
No, but they're not related, so it can't be. So when you graph a quadratic equation, you create a parabola. That's the shape of your graph. We've been graphing linear, which means like a straight line going in all directions, but a straight line. A quadratic equation graphs as a parabola, which is going to look like this, or it's going to look like this. And we'll get into how and which one and all that. But when you graph it, we're still in a coordinate plane. We have a y-axis. We have an x-axis. And if we didn't use b, what did we say, Ann Harper, was our main variable we used? X. So if we said x equals -1, x equals -5,
Put them on the X.
they're going to be on the x-axis. So we would have like a -1, and we would have a -5. And because it's a parabola, it's in that U shape, it's going to go like that.
How do you know if
We're not going to get into graphing. We won't get into the graphing questions. But that is the why of there's a lot to talk about in graphing. But I wanted you to see why we have 2 answers.
So, it's on the same line, but it's 2 different.
You'll have 2 different points, and it's where the parabola
So
crosses.
it'd be like x equals -1 comma -5.
How do we know it's the X?
Because X is the main variable.
Because it's all of these are about the x.
No y.
Think about when you y equals. This is all about the y equals the x. Da 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 da. All of this is going to be an x relation. Now,
Are you gonna give us a graph, or are we gonna have to draw it?
oh girly, we're not even into graphing. We're through talking about graphs. That's on down. Remember I said that's on down the road. I just wanted you to know why we're having this. And just showing you where we're headed. But I will give you, you're going to be really good when it's time to graph. Sir,
Back to when we how do you know if you need to turn the 5 and the 1 negative in another if we did another problem, how would you know if you need to turn them negative or keep them positive?
at this level or down in here?
Yeah, when we did b plus 5 equals 0. and like b plus 1.
All right, do you
equals
see
0.
how we got the b plus 1, b plus 5 up here?
Yeah.
Okay, then you're just taking each clumping, b plus 1, and make it equal to 0, and then you're isolating the variable. When the number crosses the equal mark, its sign has to change. So if it starts off b plus 1 equals 0, well then b, you're going to subtract 1 from both sides, so b equals negative 1. Because the positive 1 crosses over and has to become negative. So it's like when you've been working problems, you've been solving for variables a while. And even before, way before this. And it's just whenever the number crosses over the equal mark, it has to change its sign. All right. There was one more thing on this before we moved. Oh, so we are solving, which means, guys, our answer is considered the solution set for this problem. So let's take negative 1. What is, and if we look right here, look right here. What is negative 1 squared? 1. And then plus. And we would have 6 times negative 1 plus 5. This says it should equal 0 because it says so. So what is 6 times negative 1?
6 times negative 6.
So 1 plus, or 1 minus, I guess, because it's a negative 6. So if we have 1 minus 6 plus 5, what's 1 minus 6? Negative 5 plus 5.
Yep, right
All right, there we go. 0 equals 0.
Wait, so what's the answer? Like, there's so
Yeah,
much-
that's right there. That's the spot right there. Yeah.
So are you gonna have 2 answers?
Yes. So if we take, yes, because both cross the x-axis, 2 different places. So, if we take negative 5, what's negative 5 squared?
25. Positive.
And then we say plus 6 times negative 5 plus 5. So what is 6 times negative 5? 6 times negative 5?
Negative 30.
Negative 30. So 25 minus 30 plus 5. What's 25 minus 30? Negative 5. Negative 5 plus 5?
0.
0. So you see both answers create a true statement of 0 equals 0. Now if we plugged in 4, negative 12, any other number,
84.
we would get a false statement. We would have like 2 equals 0 or negative 3 equals 0. We would not ever get another time where we would have 0 equals 0.
So that's just showing on the right side of the page. That's showing how you would check it.
This is how I'm showing you we came up. Yes, we had a negative 1 and a negative 5, and we say it's solved, which means we've got to have a solution for our variable b. What are our options? The only 2 solutions, negative 1, negative 5. And so when you sub them in to the square and the multiplying by 6 and then the adding the 5, you get 0 equals 0. Because it says it needs to equal 0. And they both do. But those are the only 2 numbers that will create that. So they're the only solutions for this equation. Ma'am.
So to check it, do you use the top equation and like?
You could use either one, but I would make it easier. You need to go ahead and set it up so that it's equal to 0 and then work from there. That would be easier than trying to solve it by that one. It would work, but it would just not be as easy. Yes, sir.
Can you like box in the answer? Because I got not a lot of numbers in
Yeah. We have options. This, or we had this, or we have this. Those are, whoops. I did not mean for that to be a parenthesis. So these are our 3 ways of showing the answers. Okay? So we're going to move on. I'm erasing a good bit of this because I wrote all over the page.
No.
All right.
See you later.
See you later, alligator.
See you bye.
I won't be writing this much on the other problems. Number 2. Number 2, we have b squared equals b, but we need it all to equal 0. So which one are we moving? The b. B's gonna cross over, and we're gonna have B squared minus B. Minus B equals 0. What can you tell me about B squared and B?
They're the same.
They're not the same.
No, but
They have a
they
They
share. So what's the greatest common factor? Greatest common factor? B. Which means we're left with B squared divided by B and B minus B, B over B. No, any number over itself, 1. All right, do y'all see how we got there? Are we good to this point?
Why can't we just use X's?
I don't know. It's a good question.
It's really confusing.
Okay, I tell you what we're gonna do. We're going to ignore the variables and we'll use X every time. Okay?
Yay.
So instead, we're gonna have X squared minus X equals 0. And then they share an X and we're left with X minus 1. Now are we good? Does that make it more comfortable? That makes sense to me. Yes,
Where
sir.
did the 1 come from?
Wait, why?
Any number divided by itself.
Oh.
Why we just switch to X's?
Because they would prefer it to be, this is all about graphing, and they just wanted the variable to be X. So we did. But it gives you the same thing if you use B.
Since it was negative X divided by X, what would it be if it was positive X divided by
Would we like to know brother boy?
You'd still have plus 1. 2 over 2 versus negative 2 over 2. So just the sign would be positive. All right. Now we take each factor and make it equal to 0. This one's kind of wild. X equals 0. All right, we're done. That's all we can do with it. Because it says X equals 0 when we make it equal. Then the other one is X minus 1 equals 0. So what does X equal? 1. So our solution would be X equals, or I'm going to put it as a B though, ladies, just because it is really a B. B equals either 0 or 1. And that's my answer. Now, what is 1 squared?
1 squared.
1. What's 1 minus 1? 0. What is 0 squared? What is 0 minus 0? 0. Those two work. Let's throw out 2. What's 2 squared? 4. What's 4 minus 2? 2. Doesn't give you 0. So do you see, if you took other numbers and plugged it in, you would not be able to have it equal 0. You would end up with a false statement.
So you have to have 0?
It has to equal 0. All right. Now move down to number 12. Last problem on the page.
No.
So, this time we do not have the the lead coefficient of 1, but 3, 8, and 4 do not share factors. So we can still go ahead and set it up in our parentheses. So this one's pretty easy. We don't have to move anything around. It's ready to work. So we know that the beginning of it is going to be 3V. What are our signs going to be for each? Both negative.
Yeah.
Oh, did you say a plus and a negative? Oh, okay. Because 2 negatives give us the positive. So V minus. Now, our factors for 4 are 1 and 4, as well as 2 and 2. All right. So we need to add, stop it, to get 8.
Wait. Oh, wait, no.
So we're factors of 4 that when we multiply our outer and inner, we end up adding to negative 8.
I
So
think it's gonna be 2 and 2.
I think you're right.
Thank you.
1 and 4.
So if we do 1 and 4, that's going to be 12, 13.
The 3
Yep.
and the 4, sorry.
So 3 times 2 is negative 6, and then negative 2 gives us negative 8. So do y'all agree with this? Now, ma'am?
Oh, wait, never mind.
That's where I get kind of lost. I don't understand how that equals 8. 2,
What's 3 times 2?
6.
negative 6, v. What's negative 2 times 1?
Negative.
Negative 2v. That is your outer and your inner. And then they're like terms, so we combine them. This time the signs are the same, so we get negative 8v. And that's what we're looking for.
Yay.
See? Now, if the signs were different, we would have a 6 minus 2. We would end up with like a negative 4 or either a positive 4.
So you just forget about the zero, like the equal.
No, we gotta. Put
No,
one
we
down.
haven't gotten that far yet. We're still just figuring out what the factoring would be.
Dun, 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 dun.
Because see, it says the direction solved by factoring. So we have factored. Now it's time to solve. So I'm going to erase this part.
Fuzzball.
Can't forget
So,
never, never, never.
Stay with me. We're going to make it equal 0 each factor set. So 3v minus 2 equals 0. You've been solving problems like this, like I know since like 6th grade probably. I know you did if you were here in 6th grade. So 3v equals what? 2. So v equals 2/3. That's the first one. And then v minus 2 equals 0. So what does v equal? 2. So your two answers would be v equals positive 2/3 as well as a 2.
Where do you get the 2 in the first equation? That's just the.
Negative 2, we're isolating the variable.
It's just the outer.
So, wait, for this?
Yeah.
Wait,
Where do you get that negative 2?
right here?
You just get both of those?
You
So
take each factor.
if it was 1 and 4, it'd be like 3d minus negative 1. Then the other one would be v
Keep that.
minus 4.
You take whatever you have in your parenthesis
Here we go.
and just make it equal 0.
Okay.
Each set of factors equals 0.
Oh, I was overthinking that.
I know. It's okay. We do that. But do you see though? Yeah, don't overthink. Don't make up
It's just like the same thing. Little baby step.
little baby steps. Little baby steps. And if you were to take, yes, you can have fractions. So if you can have negative fractions, if you take 2/3 and plug it in, you're going to end up with 0. You take 2, substitute in, you will end up with 0 equals 0. You
So it's
won't if
two
you have other
different
numbers.
Equations, really. Like if you're thinking about it, like the.
This is an equation. Each set of parentheses is an equation.
Okay.
And then, why do we have two answers? Because it's where it's
Two
crossing
different
the making our
Why
curl.
don't they just do 2 different letters? That's silly.
Because it's the same.
It's not the same.
You're right. I can see that. Uh-huh. But it's the options for V. 2 different options that create. Yeah, I see what you're saying. All right, we're gonna look at something that does require 2 different letters. Your homework for this is to finish. So it's 3, 4, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
3, 4, 7, 8.
9, 10, and 11. All right, then do what?
No.
I thought so. Hold on.
You said not.
3, 4, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
3, 4.
Thanks, Reese.
No, hold on. No, if she's right, then we have a few we need to do. 3, 4. We need to do 5 and 6 together. My bad.
Oh my.
My bad. So number 5. Oh yeah, you do. We do need to do 5 and 6 together, not homework. So I want. Shh. You need to see this. Hush.
Just said 2, 3, 4.
Hey,
9, 10, 11.
with me. Number 5. Well, y'all would have been not happy when you hit this one if you, because. Anyway, I could have said finish and we'd have been stuck. So number 5, it's already set equals 0. You work it.
Oh man.
It's gonna be painful.
I'm about to quit school.
Do you have the answer yet? It's pretty easy.
Is it just 0 and 8?
Do what?
Is it just 0 and 8?
0 and check it again.
0, negative.
Negative 8. Negative 8. Because they share an x And so you're left with x plus 8. So make them equal 0. So x equals 0. And then for the second one, when you move the positive 8 over, it becomes negative 8.
Yeah, I forgot.
So those are the answers. That was easy.
That was,
Awesome, Gaines.
That was not easy.
Silly goose.
You just
This
math
is-
really hard.
Now,
I don't understand.
what's hard?
time to give up.
This math.
No. Move your 2 over, the m and the 12. So m squared plus m minus 12.
It's okay, Kate.
Now, what's going to be the answer? I need to multiply to get negative 12, that when I subtract, I get m. Come on, this is easy. 3 and 4. Which one's carrying the positive?
The small one?
Three carries a positive.
Which one carries the positive?
The small one.
Small, wait,
The bigger. The bigger.
The bigger one.
wait, what does a plus mean?
Positive.
I know, but you pointed to it like saying that like,
Uh-huh.
You're overthinking this.
She is.
how do you know what to put positive and what to put negative?
Okay, when you subtract like terms, how do you determine the sign for your answer every time? By looking at the
Larger one.
larger one. So this tells you when I subtract, the larger one needs to be whatever that sign is. And in this case, it's positive. So the 4 needs to be positive. If it had been 2 subtractions and we had a minus here, the larger one would need to be negative. So then you make each of these equal 0. So when we move the the 4 over, we end up with a negative 4. And when we move the negative 3 over, we end up with a positive 3.
I thought it has to be 0.
Uh-huh, it equaled 0, and we moved to, I just skipped that, I thought y'all, never mind, I won't skip it. I thought you could,
I know how you got that, but I thought you said it has to equal out 0. Yeah, that's what it is.
it did.
M plus
if you
4
plug it
equals
in.
0.
And so it equals 0, so we move the positive 4 over,
M equals negative 4.
and then we move the negative 3 over as a positive. There we go. So m can either be 3 or negative 4. Nothing else.
Right.
Now,
So when you say it
What
can
number?
either be negative 4 or 3, like both of those would work for.
if you plug them into m, 3 squared is 9. 9 plus 3 is 12. 12 minus 12 is 0.
Negative.
Negative 4 squared,
16,
positive plus negative 4
negative 4.
gives us what?
Positive.
Positive gives us positive 12 minus 12, 0.
Wow.
I know, right? It's so cool.
That explains it. I was okay. I was thinking of it as the first term was 3 and then the second term was negative 4.
No. It's
It's-
two options that you get. If you replace the variable with one number, it's that same number every time.
Yes.
And then you do it again and replace it with the other.
Okay.
Gaines, the 2 I'm handing you are for the 2 guys in the back. We will not finish this sheet. There is not one. Oh, what are we doing next class?
Quiz.
Quiz.
Hopefully it likes that.
The quiz is on the directions say factor completely.
Hopefully we get snowed in for a
So
week.
is this gonna
Just, okay,
sorry.
Hopefully the red.
the directions say
I know
factor
part of it helps.
completely, period. That's all it says. So does that say solve?
I have boots.
No. Does it say we're gonna have word problems?
No.
No. Okay, it's just 6 problems,
Like
Oh,
that's solve, I'm not through. And then 10 problems in problematic that are still working out like those factors.
So this is all you know.
Nothing
our last
says solve.
Like our last homework.
Now,
So
on
this-
problematic, listen to me, on problematic, it will say, like, which answer is a factor for this quadratic. And so it may not have both parentheses,
Whoa.
but it will have one of the parentheses in your answer, okay? I think that's kind of.
Right, well, we have, for our quiz,
This is solving.
that's
We're
not
not
gonna be
doing
on
that. No.
Forward.
wait, what all we have?
Can you repeat everything?
I just talked about it. Moving on.
The only thing that's gonna be on the.
Also, shh, listen super quick. This assignment right here, the 3, 4, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, is due Wednesday.
No.
Or not the, well, I can't do it. Not the next time we meet,
Wait, when do we?
but the next time after that.
Do we have you on Tuesday?
I don't know. Yes, because you have a quiz with me on Tuesday. Tuesday is a C day, and you have a quiz. So this is due for y'all on Thursday. All right? Mm-hmm. It says so.
What if we don't?
What's up?
I'm not playing what if, okay? I will let you figure out when you think it would be. Now, guys, the recording is still going.
Hello, friends.
All right, everybody has the word problems?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Owen?
I'm behaving.
No, I don't think you are. All right. Let's look at what you're given. When you have a problem that says the product of, how many numbers are normally multiplied? At least how many? 2. It could be 3 or 4 or 5, but you got to have a product. Product, what does that mean? We're multiplying. So to multiply, you got to at least have 2 things to multiply. So the product of twice the number decreased by 3 and. So here's our first thing we're multiplying. Here's our second thing we're multiplying. Because it's usually like the product of 4 and 12. So find the and there's your next doodah. So here we go. The product of, we'll put it in parentheses, twice a number increased by 3. What does that look like?
2x less 3.
All right, and so here we go, another one. Number decreased by 2, I'm sorry.
X minus 2.
X minus 2, and excuse my spelling, there should be a D with decreased by. Is means
Equal.
and 0. All right, the directions say, you show the equation, but box the solution. So we're going to solve this bad boy. You solve it. You know how?
No.
Tell me what the answers
First,
are.
outer, inner, last.
What?
Just kidding.
Make it equal. Take each variable, each factor and make it equal 0.
These are easier than the last.
It grows. Okay, so what would x, what's your first x? -3 over 2. And x could also be 2. Perfect. All right, we're good? Number 2. 6 less than the square of a number. What does that look like?
X squared.
Perfect.
Squared.
X squared minus 6, because it is 6 less than this square, is the same as 10, not 0, equals 10. So what does that mean we need to do to the 10? Yep, so we move it over and it becomes a what kind of number? Negative. So x squared minus 6 minus 10 equals 0.
We not combine those two
That's my next, yeah. Why do we combine them?
because they're like
They're alike, so what does that give us?
-16.
What is x squared minus 16?
I don't know.
16.
4.
Wait, what?
X is 4.
What kind of number? What is this?
X is
A difference of perfect squares.
X is 1.
So, wait, what? Shh. 10 plus 6. Or 6, negative 6 plus negative 10.
Where'd you get 16?
Negative 6 plus negative 10. We moved the positive 10 over. This right here gives us negative 16.
Okay, just try to put the 0 on.
Difference of perfect squares. You factor that.
Negative 4. Negative 4.
No.
What else?
Negative 8 plus.
No. 16. What's the perfect square? 16 is a perfect square.
Negative
X
4.
plus 4.
X minus.
X minus 4.
Negative 4.
So, when you make each of those factors equal 0, what is your answer?
X is equal positive 4 or negative 4.
So, X is going to either be positive or negative 4. Because X plus 4 equals 0 makes it a negative 4. X minus 4 equals 0 makes it a positive 4. Does that make sense? Okie dokie. This next one's kind of fun. Interesting and entertaining. Okay? Think back before Christmas.
Oh.
I know, right? So, find two different numbers. What does that look like? Stop.
X plus 1.
No, that's when they're consecutive. Just when it's two different. X and we'll be using X and Y. So it says who's different. Difference means what operation?
X minus Y.
So X minus Y equals what?
4.
Oh, I'm on the wrong problem. Hello.
Hello. Hello, America.
X minus Y
Here's 50.
equals 4. What is the other problem?
Product is 96.
So XY equals 96. Now, we learned before Christmas, you cannot solve two variables at a time. We can only work with one variable. So,
Just go there.
you can do something, but make it stop.
Yes.
You figure it out. So, we need to isolate one of the variables. I'm going to say let's isolate, if we isolate the x, what does the y become? A positive? Or, yeah, and positives are easier to work with. You could isolate the y, but then it becomes not fun. So, x equals 4 plus y. Everybody good with what we just did? Then we're going to take this and put it right here. Instead of the x, we're going to say 4 plus y times y. Is this so far? Have I lost anybody?
Yes.
No.
All right. Do you see why we can't work with two variables? Does that part make sense? We have to work with one at a time and then come back and figure out what the other is. So we isolate, and we chose x. And when we put x by itself, we get 4 plus y.
Oh, so you're just going to do X times 4 plus Y equals 96?
No, not x times.
Wait.
This is the value of x. So we're going to come over here, boys in the back. Shh. And where there's an x right here, instead of x,
Oh, I got it.
we're substitution. This was subbing in. We did this before Christmas when we were doing systems of equations to solve. So this one, we're going to say instead of x, we're going to say 4 plus y. And then we're going to multiply that by y. And we're going to say that equals 96. That means we need to now distribute this outside y. So we're kind of backwards, but it still distributes. So we're going to have, I'm going to end up writing below it. We'll have 4y plus y squared equals 96. All righty, guys. This is a really messed up, unorganized quadratic equation. This was what I warned you about earlier in class. It's a you can create it into a quadratic equation, but you got to move all the numbers around. Okay? But don't change their signs unless you need to. Like when you move the 96 over. So what comes first?
The 96.
The y squared. What comes after y squared? Plus 4y, good. And then what comes after that? Minus 96. And then what do we make that equal to?
0.
0.
Oh,
And then do you?
And then
Factor.
we factor.
Oh.
So, but first, are we good where we've gotten to so far?
yes.
Okay. Notice which variable are we working with?
Why?
Y.
So it's gonna be
This
on
is
the
y.
What's that squiggly thing?
Separating, it wasn't 0 times 4y. It wasn't, I wrote so close that I separated it. So, we have a y and we have a y. We've got to have factors that equal 96 that when you add or subtract to get 4. Subtract, because it's a minus 96. Factors of 96 that when you subtract you get 4. 12 and 8. Which one's going to be positive, the 12 or the 8?
12.
The 12 because it's a plus 4. So plus 12 minus 8. And we say equals 0. Are you good?
We have to
Now we continue solving. So we're going to say y plus 12 equals 0. So what is y?
y is negative 12.
Negative 12. And then y minus 8 equals 0. So what is y? 8. Okay. If we were just looking to solve purely that quadratic equation, we'd be done. But we've got to make it work for our problem. Two numbers whose difference is 4 and whose product is 96. So if y were negative 12, what would x be?
Ooh. Negative something. Negative 8.
So we're going to say x minus 12, or negative 12, equals 4. So this is really x plus 12 equals 4. So what does x equal?
8. How is it not negative 8 though? The negative 12 and negative 8 is the 96.
Solve it.
The 96 has to be
X plus 12 equals 4.
It
So
is
what does
negative
x equal?
negative.
Negative 8.
Do you have to deal with that?
I would visually make sure you're right, okay? Because just to be on the safe
Are we
side.
gonna have calculators on the quiz?
No, are we? Oh my goodness sakes! Are we going to be doing this on Tuesday?
Oh boy.
No. All right. So for this one, if y is negative 12, x will be negative 8. And then
Wait, I'm on.
This is
because it's subtraction. It looks like that would be wrong, but it's negative 8 minus negative 12, which is negative 8 plus 12. So that gives us 4. And then two negatives give us the positive 96. But what if y is 8? So if we say x minus 8 equals 4, what is x? 12. So if y is 8, then x is 12. So do you see how we had to come back and figure up what the two different numbers were? And do you see how we did it?
to an extent.
So realize when you solved, it was a y. Don't just go, oh, well, that's the first one. Work it and make sure you've come up with the right answer. Now, you do not have any homework for this. How many of these problems do we work? None. Okay? But you finish that other sheet. Yes. But for when?
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Thursday.
Thursday. Thank you, Thursday.
Thursday.
For y'all, the next class. Let me change this. Next class, hold on. Next class.